Hi, my name is Chris Clark, and I'm an engineer at Macquarie's Banking and Financial Services. I'm here to talk about Macquarie's implementation of the new payment platform and how MongoDB Atlas played a critical part in that solution. Macquarie employs over 15,000 people worldwide and operates in four distinct groups. Three of the groups provide investment banking solutions transacting in 31 different countries. The fourth group, Banking and Financial Services, which is what I'm part of, provides real-time banking services to Australian customers. The Banking and Financial Services, or BFS as it's known internally, has no physical branches, and most of our client interactions is done via digital channels, meaning that technology is at the heart of what we do. We have approximately 600 engineers spread across the Philippines, India, and Australia, with Sydney being the main hub. Over the past 5 years, there's been a conscious decision to invest more in technology and use the good things that other technology companies are doing and replicate it in the way we work. We no longer want to invest in physical hardware to run our applications. We want to provide our clients with an always-on platform.
At the same time BFS ramped up its investment in technology, we also changed the way the division was run. BFS moved to Enterprise Agile, running several release trains across the division. Each of the trains is separated into small feature teams which are no larger than 2 pizza sizes. Each of the teams can decide what flavour of Agile they would like to run between Scrum and Kanban, and of course, like true Agile adopters, we tailor them to what works for us. The teams are encouraged to be self-sufficient as possible and should be engineering-led. We really are empowered to make critical decisions ourselves, which both helps to speed to market but also a sense of ownership of the solution once it goes live. Like most other organizations, we operate in DevOps mode. We ensure that we are following the best practices. Everything should be automated, from building our applications, running tests, and releasing into the various environments. Applications are always promoted and never built for a specific environment. Teams are responsible for releasing applications into production, and they also get to decide when this happens, including Friday afternoons, if you're that crazy. For example, my team will only do releases during normal business hours. We never ever get out of bed at 2 a.m. to do a release. We also get to decide what features should be included in that release, and it's not too unusual for my team to complete several releases during the same day. Monitoring and alerting is thought about at the time we're delivering the solution. It's never an afterthought. And alerting should always be real time. We should always know when something is going wrong with our services.
So, what exactly is the new payment platform? Well, MPP is a near real-time payments platform that allows the clients to have funds settled and cleared by another bank. So basically allows you to send funds to another person, and that person will have their funds available almost in a near real-time experience. It also provides a much richer data standard compared to the most traditional schemes like direct entry. It's not owned by any bank and is governed by the Royal Bank of Australia. When we started the project, we set ourselves some goals. Everything we do should run in the public cloud, and this should include infrastructure. As mentioned earlier, we have no appetite in buying physical devices. The service that we build should be simple. BFS has had some great success using microservices in its digital platform, and we want to continue down that path. As a developer, I should be able to run the platform on my local machine, whether it be in a containers or an IDE. Upgrades to part of the platform should never result in an outage. Services should be deployed on a rolling basis, and that's the same as patching with the infrastructure. This was really important as MPP is a 24/7 platform, and we want to ensure our solution was also the same. If the database requires patching, then it should be patched whilst we continue to operate. And to that point, we actually allow MongoDB to patch our database during a normal weekday and normal business hours. The solution should be cloud agnostic and have the ability to run in multi-cloud. At BFS, we have the access to multi-cloud providers to host our applications, and as part of the solution, we do plan on running the platform in an active capacity. Monitoring, alerting, and reconciliation of payments should be in real time. The solution should be simple and clean, and don't build anything until we need it. No batches. We're real time. Batches are like buying a newspaper. Yesterday's news and the world has moved on. Like all solutions we build, there are always challenges. Security, it was paramount as we're storing highly sensitive transactional data, and where we had to ensure that where we are storing the data was secure, and the vendor we chose to be part of that solution had to pass a rigorous onboarding process. Real-time was a goal, but how can you maintain a true 24/7 platform? With payments, batches were always an accepted method of processing payments. We've moved on from overnight batches to running several times a day, so it's a real mind shift to move to a truly real-time model. Changing the way reconciliations work, moving from a T+1 reporting mindset to a real-time alerting of missing funds. We have to ensure that what we send out via the MPP is accounted for. A client should never be inconvenienced due to an issue with the solution we built. For example, if the receiving bank should decline the transaction for whatever reason, we will automatically refund the client and send a push notification alerting them of the fact. 24/7 DevOps mindset. We can no longer rely on a dedicated operations team. If something gets to break in production, then the alerts go straight to the team that's building and releasing the product. And well, to be honest, I really like the sleep, so I was truly invested in making sure the solution didn't break. Already playing catch up with other institutes. Macquarie had decided it goes the second wave of onboarding the MPP. From a client perspective, it meant that we were late to the market with the product. From a product perspective, though, it allowed us to observe how the product was being used and how other banks had implemented it. We learned a lot of lessons from how other banks were doing this. Risk of failure. We were building a platform completely from scratch. Reduce risk by fully automating testing, having blue-green deployments, and constantly releasing features into production. We also separated and delivered the product into several distinct parts, concentrating on receiving funds first and then moving on to sending. We're a newly formed team with all different levels of experience. The area in which the platform was being developed, it was also a little behind the rest of the bank when it came to technology, so we had to change that and become a very digital mindset. And this would be new operating within inside the business banking train. There were no test teams, no release teams, no support teams. We truly owned this solution and ran it. We built the solution a little bit like how I've done this presentation, bit by bit. You'll notice it's dark outside now and the sun doesn't really set that quick in Australia. As mentioned previously, we were starting with a completely blank slate, which is both exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. I always find it easier to build on a working solution, so we started doing exactly that. We start with what we call a steel thread. We try to prove out one part of the platform from top to bottom. Once that was working, we then stretch out that solution. We'd focus on happy path features, then start to add some chaos. The service were built only provide the minimum amount of functionality required to fulfill their current task. I was forever reminding the team to think agile. We're building for now, not 3 sprints down the line. We needed a flexible approach, but we also needed to get applications up and running fast, which meant that we had to have a database there, and Atlas was awesome for that. A few clicks of the button and it was up and running. But to complement that, we also didn't want to spend days thinking about the perfect schema, and that's where the document data store really stood its ground. The network topology wasn't there at the start, and that meant our testing environments were connecting via a channel that wasn't deemed secure enough. That didn't stop us. We continued to build and we continued to develop and we continued to connect to Atlas. Once that topology was built, we then used Atlas's live migration to move from one server to another, and it was completely seamless. Scalability. We run our applications in Kubernetes, which means our applications can scale very easily, but we also wanted that same flexibility with our database, and again, Atlas gives us that. And really, our effort should be spent building the right solution for our clients, not thinking about the database. And as mentioned previously, we wanted a self-sufficient team. And as much as I love DBAs, I don't want to talk to them on a daily basis. And Atlas, again, I didn't have to. We built a very loosely coupled architecture. Applications should be able to replace and rebuild without requiring a rewrite of the solution. This would allow us to build an evolving solution, allowing us to start the build early and not spend months of documenting what it was we were actually building. As mentioned earlier, we'd had great success with inside BFS using microservice-based architecture, and as a team, we decided that that would suit our needs. We used async events as much as possible, and we achieved this by holding the client in channel for the least amount of time. We then used an eventing service to publish the various events created throughout a transaction's life. Because we can scale our solution easily, we're able to carry out some extensive load testing, and we know that we can easily support an aggressive increase in usage of the platform well within the next 5 years. Again, Atlas was able to support this testing with a few clicks of the button. Because of the way we delivered the product, we went live several times throughout the life of the project. We based the order in which we went live on how much impact it would have to a client should the platform fail, and how much could we learn from going live with what we had planned. We went first with receiver payment via PayID. So PayID is one of the really neat features of using the MPP, and it's the fact you can register an alias for your bank account, such as a mobile number and an email address. And this means it's a lot safer than handing out your bank account details, but it's a lot easier to remember too. By going live with part of this project, we're able to prove out that all our infrastructure components, our flexible architecture, and our release processes all worked. Send a payment was next. We built this part of the solution completely separate to receive, and it showed no applications, but built using the same technologies and the same blueprints. We went live with send a payment 2 months into the COVID situation, and it was probably the most anticlimactic release I've ever been involved with. Everyone was remotely working, and it was just a flick of the switch and the payment started flowing out the bank. There was no issues, and it just simply worked. So why did we choose MongoDB? I think I have to break this into two parts. The first is why we're using a document data store, and then why we're using Atlas. First off, I have to confess that I wasn't the one who wanted to use a document data store. It was our payments architect, Jason Frank. Prior to joining the payments team, I'd spent the last few years working with a very popular key value store database. Don't judge. But it scaled excellently, was already on board in the bank, and I had the tools available to use it. It would have been the easiest choice. I was also a little bit perplexed as to how you can map schemaless database into Java objects. It's no secret that Java plays a big role at Macquarie, and I spent years with Hibernate, JPA, and even EGBs. Then I started to look at the rich events we're getting back from MPP, and it was clear that there was no way we could map them back to a row in a table. I mean, we could have mapped them back, but it was not something that we really wanted to do. And the fact we could store the documents as is and map that back to fields when we're only interested in was a big win. But just because they weren't mapped in the application doesn't mean they were lost, the ability to search for them. So the data was still there in the database, and we can still go in there and we can still query them. Within a few months of using MongoDB, I really started to appreciate the freedom and the flexibility offered by using documents. From day one of joining the team, I was given access to Atlas, and whilst I didn't fully appreciate the appeal of using a document data store, I instantly appreciated the freedom Atlas was giving me. It was like being given the keys to your parents' car for the first time. I no longer had to ask for a new instance of a database to be created. I could do that all myself. I didn't even ask for more disk space, CPU, RAM, another collection, nothing. My team and I have full control of all those features. With the team operating in DevOps mode, we have access to the UI and we can see the performance of the database. And if needed, we can upgrade the database at will. As we built out the solution and proved that it worked, MongoDB was the least problematic part of the solution. It just simply worked. And last thing, I often get asked, why don't we go with another document data store? And for me, it's an easy one to answer. We had to fulfill the goal of being cloud agnostic and multi-cloud enabled. And using MongoDB Atlas, it gives us that out of the box for free. And that was one of our main goals of the team. Now that we're live with Pay to PayID, we're now enabling the use of MPP to pay to BSB and account numbers. So this will replace the normal funds transfers you're doing that are processed overnight batches. We're also using the technologies and techniques used to deliver MPP to modernize the rest of the payments area and of course continue to evolve our solutions.